Simply awesome. An invisible subwoofer. Everything via plug and play. We have already installed new speakers in the Sprinter here in the last video, in the W907, and have already achieved a completely different level of sound. And for those who say, that's still not enough for me, I have greater demands, I want to make more sound, in this video we show you how to add a subwoofer, install a DSP power amplifier, all via plug and play, and then you can make it really loud, have a crystal clear sound, and really enough bass so that it sounds really awesome. We now offer you two different kits. One for vehicles with DSP preparation. That is, you will find an ISO plug connection on the passenger side below the A-pillar. And one for vehicles that do not have this. That is, without DSP preparation. The only difference is the corresponding wiring harness. In this video, I show you which one is installed and how, so that you can understand it if you want to install it yourself later. And now let's move on, because the rest is the same for both sets. We have a 6-channel DSP power amplifier, the DSP6 from Option. This is now taking care of the right and left speakers, which we have already retrofitted, hopefully by replacing our Option MBW907 speakers with a center speaker. We have now made a video about it. Hopefully you've already watched it and have brought the vehicle up to a new level in terms of loudspeaker technology. And this power amplifier now ensures that you can go at a decent volume, that you can turn up the volume even at higher speeds, so that you can't hear your passengers snoring. You simply turn up the volume until the music drowns out everything else. You cannot do this with the original radio output. In other words, you turn it up to the maximum and the volume is conversation volume. You can't get much more out of it than that. And for all those who want more, here's our DSP sound system for the Sprinter. 2 channels take care of the front right and front left. 2 more channels for the subwoofer under the swivel seat. And 2 more channels for all rear speakers, installed in the vehicle. I have to say that we have a Sprinter W907 from Heimer here, the B580. I think it's a vehicle that mirrors many vehicles in a similar design. In the last video, where we installed the loudspeakers, we showed various adapters where you should and must and can change things. We've already done that. Take another look at the video. I'll link it here so that you can find it straight away. And we now put an invisible subwoofer under the swivel seat, which all these vehicles in the motorhome sector actually have. This is the good piece. We're now going to install it together. It looks the way it does because we originally designed it for the Ducato and have now realized that there's so little space in the Sprinter's rotating console that we'll have to go for something very compact. And then, of course, we took our Rock 1 from the Ducato and said to ourselves, we'll modify it with a holder so that it also fits the Sprinter. And now the thing fits directly under the seat without being visible from the outside. And the bass for it, of course, the power amplifier also ensures that it sounds really harmonious and produces an incredible amount of music, even at high volumes. Our DSP6 power amplifier from our Sprinter sound system has, of course, already been programmed with all the sound settings as delivered, so that each speaker is already set to the optimum frequency, with the totally awesome setting I made for you. All connections can also be installed in the car using plug and play. This means you don't need to cut anything apart or do anything else. Everything is installed in just a few simple steps. And if you also need the right tools, we also have the option Torque set for the corresponding Torque screws that we have in the vehicle, or the remover tool, which you can also order if you don't already have one. And you'll also see a pull-through belt in a moment, where we can use it. And now we'll go into the car and install everything. Our DSP power amplifier will disappear into the footwell later. That means we're going to start by removing all the parts so that we can put our cables in and then close everything up again. We can turn the 2 screws here by a quarter. Then we can take out the whole mat here and see a plastic part like this. We can now pull this mat up a little and remove the plastic part upwards and pull it away here. And then we are already at the fuse box and can now remove our cover here. It's only clipped on. And now remove the lower part by opening the lock here. It's just a plastic nipple in here. And at the very bottom, underneath this rubber, is another screw that we have to loosen here. This is a 20mm Torque, so that we can still remove the foot section, that is, the foot side section. And while we're at it, we can also remove the cladding. That's 2 screws. Finally, you can now pull out the plastic part here and have the whole thing completely exposed. Since our Rock 1 Sprinter subwoofer fits under this seat, we naturally remove the seat. And this is a 40mm Torque. We have to unscrew it. It's not included in the Torque set. It's also advisable to use a ratchet set, because you need a bit of force here, even when closing at the end, so that you have the right angle. To do this, we now need to loosen 4 screws. Now you can grab the seat quite firmly, lift it up and tilt it slightly backwards, and you can also leave it in place so that we can easily reach the subwoofer at the bottom. When tilting the seat backwards, please make sure that the plug connections down here remain as they are. Take your time when tilting the seat back. Look inside to see where your cable is hanging so that it just stays as it is. This is what it looks like under the seat. Admittedly, I already have a wooden panel here, which was so lightly placed on top, where this material, the box here, was screwed on. It's actually completely unimportant. You can put it all down here and prepare the speaker down here so that it looks like it does here now, with a warm air hose that goes right through it. That's why it's difficult with other subwoofers. And I cut out a bit of this part here at this corner, this damping material, so that our woofer doesn't have a treble problem here. Before we push the woofer in now, we need to loosen this part here. It's just a clip that secures the whole flange here. You can loosen it with a little twisting, like this. That's what it looks like. It will be pressed together later, and if we lay it on the side a little, we can now insert the subwoofer here without any problems. Press down here. And here, with this nose, we go in underneath here and can attach the woofer here, and it fits in here like this. But before we attach it like this, I wanted to show you what it basically looks like, the good piece. We have to bring our subwoofer cable in here and make the connection between the power amplifier, which is located down here in the fuse area, and up to the subwoofer. But we have the subwoofer connection cable for that. And you can use a pull-through belt from here under this floor material. We can take that away a bit. We can run it through here at the side. And use our pull-through band to come out right there again. So, here we are. We use the pull-through strap, because it's a bit tricky to pull the cable forward here. It would probably work quite well in front of it with a bit of fiddling, but we simply attach it to our pull-through strap and pull it back or through. That's why we call it a pull-through strap. So, now we can attach this and move forward here. And once we've dealt with the issue, we already have our subwoofer cable where it needs to go. Our Rock 1 woofer for the Sprinter contains two 16 cm speakers, that is, subwoofers, which are housed here in the enclosure, in a bandpass enclosure. In other words, this bass port ensures that the bass is pumped out into the passenger compartment. And here we have the connection with the Molex. In our case, we use the 0-degree connection in any case. That is, in this case, it would be this socket. That's how the plug belongs to connect the subwoofer. And now, of course, we can also take the woofer and place it down here. Remove the heat pipe. Insert here. And press in directly at the bottom. And that's it. Everything is fixed. And now we can also put our heat pipe here. You actually have to press it. In a bit. Sorry about that, but I don't think it really matters at this point. It's minimal, and can now press this part back on from the front and tighten it. Yes. So, the whole thing is stowed away underneath. And the base is installed. Theoretically, we can now put the seat back on, because even with the Sprinter's swivel seat, you can still reach the connection point at the front, because there's only a metal cover on the front. We can now easily feed the subwoofer cable, under this sill trim, and under the floor trim. Of course, because it's all already loose and loosened. And we can push it right under here, and lay it all the way to the front. Then we can come straight back out here and leave the cable here. We'll need it again in a moment. In the last video for the loudspeaker installation in the Sprinter, I briefly showed you this adapter, which you need if you have a Hymer B580 or similar, where you have rear body-mounted loudspeakers. And what I'm going to show you first is for all vehicles that have exactly this variant, so maybe not necessarily this, but this is the DSP preparation for the Sprinter. If you have it in such a way that you can take it apart here, the next installation I'm going to show you is the right one for you. This is for DSP preparation, because with our enclosed cable kit, we can now connect directly to it, like this. And we have already made the sound tap for our power amplifier, and could now connect the power amplifier in this way. And it would already be supplied with all the signals and contacts for the speakers with our finished wiring harness, like this. We can now add the ground here, which I have also prepared for you so that you can screw it directly to this ground point. We have already connected part of the power supply, namely the ground, and now we are still missing the power supply, the plus. And to do this, we can loosen this panel here in our fuse box, using a 30mm torque to undo a single screw. And we can now remove this fuse block. It's anchored in the back here again with two small hooks, which you just have to pull back in when you put it back in, and then push it down again. We can now click on this fuse block, which is the area for continuous plus, and we also have to take that, and then you take a free slot that is left over, and we can now click our pin in here from below. So, there it is. And now we can put the fuse from above in here as well. And now we have this slot, which is now our final stage for the power supply. And now we can attach our fuse block here again and continue. Our power amplifier now fits right here. And we can put our plastic panel right on top of it afterwards. There is exactly one cavity where our power amplifier will fit. And we can now place the cables here in the original cable duct and stow them away accordingly. Our sound setup is now such that, in theory, we don't need the adapter because I've already ironed out the filter for the rear speakers, which start to creak and rattle very quickly in their original state. In theory, we wouldn't need it anymore. Even for someone who says that the loudspeakers are installed directly above here in the cab, the body loudspeakers, who says that I don't need them anymore, I have a mega cool front system that provides optimum sound for the whole front area. They can leave the plug out completely if they still have it in. We don't really need it in this case, but you can also plug it back in between docking. If you say, well, I've got speakers up there, they should be connected again somehow, then you can still plug it in. That doesn't detract from the whole thing. You can do it however you like. We'll just put the whole thing together like this, and we'll be at the end of our installation. We can now put our trim parts back on. Or I can show you how to uninstall the car radio. To access the connections, if you don't have the DSP preparation, then you don't have these cables here. Then we have to connect to the radio slot up there, and that's a bit of action, but I'll show you in detail how it works. In order to get directly to the car radio and lay cables there, we have to unclip this tray here. It's all just clipped in. There is money coming out. Fine. Because now we can also remove the panel, and we now have 5 screws that we need to loosen. Now we can remove the panel here and unclip it here on the side. So, that's it. We still have an alarm system in here. That's why there's an LED. Let's leave everything untouched, because now we can run cables from down here to the back, all the way over here. And now we have to get in here and remove the panel here. We can now also use the remover tool to drive into the back here. And all of this is actually just clipped. And when you unclip it, these ventilation parts will also come out. All you have to do is lay them on their side, and you can unclip the whole panel. So, now we've got it too. And now we can take the whole thing like this. Okay, it sounds really brutal, but this is really robust stuff. You can take it like this and take it off. And now we have to loosen 2 screws so that we can unclip the whole unit here. We can now start in one corner and take it out bit by bit. Oh, everything comes out now. So we just want the inner piece here. Now we can hang it on the side. We'll put a fleece or some kind of cloth in between so that nothing happens here. This is the basic unit that we need to address. And we have to loosen it with 4 screws. And now we can tilt our base unit out to the front and put it down here completely. And these are the 2 plugs that we now have to remove. There's just the latch that you have to push to the side here to remove the plug. And we do the same with the plug. And now comes our T-cable set, which fits exactly onto these 2 plugs and practically adapts the whole thing. Now you're probably wondering which plug? Well, this is the plug I'm showing you right now, but I don't actually have it physically in stock right now, but it's simply docked on here, just like we did down in the footwell with the other variant, and then the whole piece is docked back in between. And because there are already very strong and thick plus and minus cables here, which are also fused with 25 amps, we can use the power supply right here, that is, screw this pin with the fuse at the bottom, or with the ground to the ground pole. We can save ourselves the trouble of the complete cable kit, because everything here is already done on top, and you only need to plug it all together. And now we just need to pull this cable. Here on the side, you can pull the cable down, and yes, I'll show you. So, you can grab it from below and pull it down once and lay it behind these cover parts all the way down to the output stage again. And that's it. This is the difference to vehicles that have no DSP preparation, but everything has to be tapped here at the top. All the additional cables that we are now installing here so that we can make the tap here will also fit easily into the cavity below so that you can stow them here and still install the base unit accordingly. The only difference is that there are simply 2 or 3 more cables in here which run right through. The air vents are inserted at the very end so that it says top on top here. You just lay it down like this and wiggle it in a little, and then it slides in all by itself. Finally, you can put the cover back on completely. Insert it into the guide at the top, and lift the carpet up a little. And now you can lower the whole part here accordingly, and assemble the whole thing. And the power amplifier is now under here. It doesn't get very warm anyway. It's a digital power amplifier with extremely high efficiency, and it disappears under here without any problems. And now we can put all the parts back together again. We're doing the sound check now, and it's already running. And now you realize immediately. The onboard loudspeakers, because the car is big, we actually need big loudspeakers. We've already done everything we can with the loudspeakers, but the subwoofer under the seat now ensures that the bass foundation here suddenly takes on a completely different volume. You notice that at low volumes too. It just sounds really round. Guys, I'm going to turn it up a bit, and you'll notice from my voice alone that it's at a completely different level than I've ever been able to drive before. It's much louder now, and it's just as clear and clean. This means that even at high speeds, where I simply crank up the volume and turn up the volume control, the sound remains clean and clear. In other words, no one will say, "Hey, turn it down again, it sounds kind of raspy." Nothing here sounds at all clipped. I have adjusted the voices via the sound processor in the power amplifier, so that everything is now nicely displayed on the dashboard. The original center speaker also plays its part in making it sound very similar for both the front passenger and the driver. And if you look straight ahead, all the music in front of you is nicely blown up. Blown up is a bad term. So set up is what I meant to say. That you simply don't think about it. What could be different now? No, everything is as it should be. And you will agree with me if you install the system in such a way that it is very easy to install in the first place. You can install it incredibly quickly. You don't have to break anything. You can also just try it out and say, "What? I'll take a minute, I'll buy this system, try it out with plug and play. And if I don't like it, or it doesn't do what I expect, then I'll just send it back. That's fine. But you can try it out and just do it in a free hour, and you probably won't need longer. Let it be 2 hours, okay? But that's it. And then you have the whole thing built in here, and you can enjoy it all year round, on every trip, wherever you go. Is that cool?